Hey there, how's it going everyone? In this video, we are going to continue from where we stopped. In the previous video, we went ahead and carried out form validation on our sign up form. Now in this video, we're going to go ahead and make sure that our sign up form works with our backend API so as to create a new user account. So right now, we see that we're having these validations, and if we check our development server, we have a lot of warnings such as that they expected this instead of this, and what this means is actually that uh, we need to change these equal signs to we need to change these double equal signs to these triple equal signs. Please comment down in the description to tell me what this actually means. So I'll go ahead and simply change that. So what I'll do is to actually change this, then come right in here, also change that. I'll also do the same thing for this and the same thing for this. And when I save, that is going to take away those errors. Now we are going to keep the use state hook within our code because we're going to use it in a moment. So the first thing we're going to do is to check for the endpoint we are going to call for our signing up. But before we do that, let me first go ahead and check our sign up form. So we need to go back to our React app. So within our React app, we see that in case we submit a form, it's going to give us these errors. And in case, let's say we input a username, so I'm going to say test user. So we see that that error is gone. We add an email, see that that error is gone. If we add, let me say a password, see that there's more form validation. So if I input, let me say I input more than 8 characters, that error is gone. And let's say input another password. So in this case, we see that our form is working. So our form validations are working successfully. Then the next thing we need to do is to be able to fix our form so that we get our styling neat. As you saw in the last video, we made our errors appear below our form inputs, but then they made our form a little bit bigger than what we had in the beginning. So to do this, I'm going to go back to our form code and I'm going to fix this. So what I'm going to actually do is to remove these line break statements. I'm going to remove them, and what I'll actually do is to simply make these spans paragraphs. So I'll just change them to paragraphs. So I'll do paragraph and then paragraph. And then instead of making them in big letters, I'll actually make them small. So what I'll do is to use the small tag. So I'll just come put this validation message within a small tag. Actually, I'm going to do small, and then I input the message. So I'll come and do the same thing for for all the form validation. So what I'll do is to change this. So I'm going to change this to B. This is going to be a paragraph. I'll also change this to a paragraph. Now after changing that to a paragraph, I'll do the same thing for this. So max characters should be 80. Change this to a small tag. So I'll say small. Now this is going to be that. So I'll do the same thing for the next. So I'll go ahead and do for all. So I'll change this to small first. Just say small and testing that. Then I'll come see where the mistake is. So right in here, I can say small. Then I put in the message. I'll do the same thing for this. So I'll come, let me first remove that. So I'll come right in here and say, so this will be also small. Then simply close it. This will be small also. So right in here, I'll just put the message back and simply call this. This will be a paragraph, and also this will be a paragraph. So I'm just going to keep on changing them. So actually, I'm going to just use this. So I'm just going to come, use Control D, select that span, and I'll change it to a paragraph. Same thing for this case. So what I'll do is to actually change this to a paragraph. So I'll just come Control D and change to a paragraph. Now I'm going to just keep this small. just like this. So say small and then put the message back. So if I check here, I have all of these enclosed within our small tags. So hoping that this thing is going to work. Let me also change this. So I'll change this span to a paragraph. I'm going to come in here and change this to a paragraph. And then I'm going to come right in here. And then what I'm going to do is to say small. So then paste in error. So after doing this, I'm going to save and let's go back to our client. So I'm going to head over to our Chrome and we try to refresh. This time we see that some of these have been fixed. Let's try to check the password. So I need to go to the password. So in this case, we have password. So I need to remove these BR statements. So let me remove them. Also remove them here. So have try to see we have any. Yeah, we also have these line breaks here. So I'm going to remove them. I also remove these. So I made save, and when I save, this time we see that this is fixed. Let's try to check our username. So I'm going to go to the username part. And within our username, I'm going to remove these line breaks. So I remove these line breaks. We see that we're having something of that sort. So let me remove these. I'm going to remove these breaks. Then these line breaks too. Actually, we had line breaks on form groups. So after fixing this, you see that now our form is neat and does not have that. So let's try to submit. We see that now our form validation errors have been shown, but then our form is neat. So let's try to input. So if I say username, user, so email, let me say I enter an email. Let's say I enter a password. Then I also enter another password. So it will be like this. So what we need in this case is to submit this form and be able to send this data to our API so that we create a new user account. So let's try to do this. So I'm going to open up our API. So our API is currently running at localhost 5000 slash doc slash it's running at localhost 5000. So the docs are at localhost 5000 slash docs. Navigate to this route, we are going to go to the auth namespace, and within an auth namespace is where we are having our auth route for signing up. So within our sign up, we have email, password, username, email, and password. Now in this case, what we need is when we submit form from our React front end, we are going to submit this form and then create a user on our backend. So to do this, we're going to head over to our Visual Studio Code. And remember, we added an on click listener to this button that is able to handle our submit. So when you go to submit to the submit form function, right in our sign up page component, we see that what we have right now is console logging this data. Now, one thing we want to do is to be able to send this data to our server using the fetch API. So I'm going to use the fetch API to create a new user account. So let's get started doing that. So what I'm going to do is let's first see that data is going to console log. In the last video, we saw that this console logs an object containing the data. So if we head over to our React app, let's try to minimize this. So I can go to console and let's try to input. So we see already data is being console logged. So if I say, let's say a username Jimmy, let's say Jimmy, and then email is equal to Jimmy company.com. So let's say password, say password, and then I can also enter another password. So if I submit, see that it's console logging an object containing all the data that we've entered within our fields. So let's go ahead and try to sign up our user. So I'm going to go back to our front end. I'm going to refresh this. So I'm going to head over to our front end code. And within our front end code, what you need is to send this data to the server. So to do that, I'm just going to come right in here. And what I'm going to do in this case is to use the fetch function. So I may create a simple function. I'm going to create a simple function here, and I'm going to create a function. Actually, let me not create a function. What I'm going to do is to actually use the fetch function. So we shall need request options since we're going to do a post request. So in this case, I can say const request options, and that will be an object. So I'm also going to create a fetch function right in here, and then that fetch function is going to get that route, which is slash auth slash sign up. I'm going to say slash auth slash sign up, and then our request options. Now this is supposed to send data to this slash auth slash sign up route, and it's going to be a post request. So our request options object contains a headers, a method, and the body that we're going to send with the request. So let's go ahead and include that. I'll come right in here within our request options, and the first thing I'll have to specify is our method. So in this case, the method is going to be a post method. And say that our method is going to be post. The next thing is going to be the headers. So I'm going to say, sorry for this. So this is going to be our headers, and then headers is going to be an object containing the various headers we're going to send with this request. So the first header I'm going to put is the content type. So in this case, it's specifying the type of the content that we're going to send with the request. In this case, we're going to specify that the content type is going to be application stroke JSON, meaning that whatever data we're going to send with this request is going to be in the type of JSON. So we're going to send this as JSON. Then the next thing we're going to specify is the body that you're going to send with this data. So to do this, what I'm going to actually do is to stringify, because right now we are console logging an object, and right now we are console logging an object. For example, if I submitted this form, can now see that we are currently having nothing. So let's try to input something in here. So if I input an email, let's say a password, so let's say a password and another password. So if I submit this, we see that we are currently having an object. Now, if we are sending data from our client to our server, we need to send this data as JSON, not as an object. Oh, JavaScript has a special object called JSON that has methods that can be able to turn these objects from an object to JSON, as well as from JSON to an object, as we're going to see. What I'm going to do is to come and specify the body, and this body is going to be JSON. So this is the JSON object, and then it has a method called stringify. So the stringify method takes in the object that you want to make into a JSON string. So just like you can see here, we have a JavaScript value, usually an object, to be converted. That's what we pass in within this method. So what I'm going to do is to pass in this case, it's going to be our data. Actually, let's first access whatever we need from the data. So in this case, we can say, actually, let's try to get the different information. So I'll keep the body as it is. So I keep the body as just an object. And when I come right here, I can console log. So let's try to get the username. So I'll say console.log. So in this case, I can say data.get. And when I can say data, actually I can say data because it's an object, so you can access data.username. If I say data.username, then I say console log. So this will be data.email. Then I can also console log. So I can say console.log data dot, let's say this is going to be password. Then let's say console log. So I can console.log data dot, let's say confirm password. So let's try to see this in action. So I'm going to remove this. So when I save and go back to our client, I'm going to try to put some information in here. So I'm going to put an email. Actually, this is going to be a username. So put Jonathan. Then I'll put an email. I'll put a password. So let me say password. So I'll also put another password. So I can say password. And then sign up. So right now we see that when we send this request, we have a bad request simply because we haven't specified the body. All the body is an empty object. So what we needed is to access these different things that we input into our fields. So once we have, we can actually carry out some client-side validation. For example, we need our password to be equal to the confirm password value. We are going to be able to make use of this data as we get it from the data object. So let's try to do that. I need to remove this, and the first thing I'm going to do is to so right in here, I'm going to simply create an if statement. So in this case, what you need to validate is whether the password is equal to the confirmed password value. So what I'll do is to say if password actually if data dot password is equal to, this means that if the types are also equal, so in this case if data dot confirm password, then we shall carry out all this logic. For example, the fetch request and everything. So I'll simply enclose right in here. I'll enclose everything right in here. And then if I come right here, this bracket matches with this one. So I'm using bracket pair parallelizer. So right in here, so else if the passwords do not match, what we want to do is to just simply alert uh, passwords do not match. So you can feel free to be creative and see how you can get over this. However, I've decided to keep things simple for now, so I'm going to save this. And let's try to input a password that's not equal. So I can say username is that, email is going to be that. So let's say password and password in here. So actually, let me put password and then say password. So right here, I see actually put something else. If I sign up, see that passwords do not match. Now, this is some good validation right to the box. So let's say if in this case we are to make use of passwords that match. So in this case, let me say um, this. Then I put in a password, so I can say another password. Actually, let me try to use another password. So I can say something like password. Uh, 123. So then I say this can also be password. So if I submit, sign up. So in this case, we see that it's going to give us and actually let me first clear the console to demonstrate this. So in this case, we see that for the last case, we get a 400 bad request. So this means that our client is successfully sending data to our server in case our passwords do match. So let's try to do the sign up functionality. Now I'm going to go right in here, and what I'll do is to let me remove these white statements. So those white statements are gone. So I'll also format the code to make it tidier. I'm going to come right here and I'm going to just format. After formatting, I'll just come right in here. So right now what we see is if our passwords match, then what we're going to do is to carry out the rest of the fetch function. And if they do not match, we're simply going to alert passwords do not match. So let's go ahead and try to sign up. So let's try to uh, also to make our body. So our body is going to be, so this is when the password matches. So we're going to just call our body. So I'm going to create our body. So I'm going to say const body. So our body simply be equal to an object. And this object is going to simply have a username. Our username is going to be data username, just like I showed you. It's going to be data.username. Then our email is going to be equal to, oh, sorry for this. So this is going to be data.email. And then the next thing is going to be our password. This is when we have checked whether they match. So our password in this case will be data.password. So after doing this, the next thing is going to be stringifying the object. So in this case, we're going to say JSON.stringify Then we shall pass in our body. So let's say our body in this case is going to be to specify it right at the top here. So after doing this, I'm going to save, then try to carry out this again. So I'm going to save with Control S. So I'm going to just come here and save and come back to our client. We're going to come back to our client. So I'm going to inspect what the server is going to return. So let's try to actually add. So in this case, I'll add then, and then let's say then. So I can say we need a response and we need it as JSON. So I'll say response.json, and then I can also say then. So this is how we can access the response. So in this case, I can just console log the response from the server. If I say console log data, and then I'll catch any errors by saying catch. So error, in case you have any error, what I'll simply do is console log it to the console. So let's try to see if our request in this case is going to be successful. I'm going to save and then head over to our client. So I'm going to open up the JavaScript console. I'm going to come right in here and provide a username. So I'll provide a username, for example, Jonah, and provide an email. Then I'm going to provide a password, then provide another password. After providing the password, I'm going to submit. So let's see what is going to happen. To actually go back to our client. So let's try to go. So I'm going to even check the server if that has happened. In this case, we see that the request did not happen. /auth/sign up. We have bad requests. Let's try to see. We try to refresh and try again. So let's try to sign up a user again right in here. So username, add a password and another password. So if I save, I mean sign up. So we see that a username with this already exists. So this means that our server is now checking if the user exists and then it's returning our response. So let's try to create a user who is not existing. For example, we can create a user called John Doe. So let me say John Doe 256. Then create an email John Doe 56 at gmail.com. So I add a password, then another password. I sign up this user. So we see that this user has been created on our server side. Let's see if they're going to show us the response. So we see right now that our user has been created successfully. And the next thing we're going to do is to show these statements on our front end using the alert component that comes with React Bootstrap.